Very first question might be more of a sentimental throwback now, given that you got a recent promotion. Let's kick things off with that one. You were employee number 9 to join Octopus Electric Vehicles over 5 years ago. What was it like to join such a small team, and how has the company evolved since, right through to the point where you are now Director of Procurement?
Looking back on the journey, it's definitely been a roller coaster, but a really fun one at that. Leaving like big corporate space and joining a startup, which at the time, when you said the word octopus, other than the animal, no one really knew who it was, both in the energy space and obviously in the car leasing space. Whereas now the brand has almost become a household name. It was definitely a mindset change coming out of like corporate space, and actually. What I really valued about coming into Octopus was just the ability to get stuck in and do loads of different jobs. So that's come about just from as the business has been growing, we've been getting bigger, and then ultimately our priorities change, and the roles that people need to do will change as well.
In the startup, you find that you have to wear a lot of hats. You have to wear a lot of hats, but it means you learn a lot. Yeah, it means you learn a lot. With regards to your personal EV journey, now you said it began with a second-gen Nissan Leaf, and now you've driven practically every EV in the market, and to quote you, even the ones not there yet.
Yes.
So what exactly about that first experience really hooked you and set you on this path?
So I've always been massively into cars growing up. From my early days, I would definitely call myself a petrol head. Obviously, definitely not anymore. Cars have always interested me. Before I went into the automotive space, I was actually studying to become a car mechanic. And when I first drove my first EV, much like many people, I was quite skeptical. Before then, I'd never even really driven an automatic. I'd always said to myself, I'm always just going to. I love driving manual cars. I love the feel of driving a manual car. But when I literally, from the moment I stepped in it, and I felt that instant power, and just how easy it was to drive, and then also actually appreciating like how quiet a drive can be, I was hooked. There are so many skeptics out there, and to be honest, I was one of them. And I think if I can turn it around, then I've got the ability to help others do so as well. And a lot of the time, to be fair, it's just jumping in one and driving it for yourself. A lot of the skeptics, if you actually ask them if they've even driven one, a lot of them will tend to say no. But how can you be so sure that you won't like something if you've never tried? It's like trying new food, right?
Okay. True that. Let's talk procurement background. So everyone says they fell into procurement, and you have started your background in sales. How did you transition into procurement? Did sales really help along the way?
I'm definitely that stereotype of I 100% fell into procurement. Even through my career, I didn't really meet like lots of procurement individuals. A lot of the automotive space was based around sales or operations. So you either had a sales role, you had an operational role. The way I essentially fell into procurement was as we were transitioning from becoming a broker into becoming a leasing company, CEO Fiona sort of said to me, "Oh, Alvin, we're going to need to buy some cars, and we're going to need to talk to all the different car manufacturers, and we're going to need to set up a dealer network." And actually, because of my background, both in dealership and working for a car manufacturer, she was like, "Well, do you want to try and do this?" At the time, I was really apprehensive because I was putting myself out of my comfort zone. Sales has always been what I'd known. But then actually what I realized is procurement is sales. The difference being is you're selling yourself and you're selling your business to be able to then buy like products or services for your business. So one of the lines that I love to use is that when I moved into procurement, what ended up happening was I ended up transitioning from owning the number to being a facilitator of the number. And what I mean by the number, I mean sales it's very target driven. There's always a number to try and chase, or a forecast to try and put. Yeah. And I was so focused in my whole career of just being like, okay, I need to hit that number. I need to achieve this number. What I ended up becoming was a facilitator of the number. And I love that. And actually, if someone asked me if I wanted to go back into sales or do a sales role, the answer is probably no. Like I love procurement. I love what I do. I love looking at the supply chain, being there from end to end, and really understanding how that the decisions that I make are impacting the whole business.
Your role involves connecting with amazing people, amazing brands. What's your secret to building stronger relationships?
I guess my secret sauce is, and I know this sounds really cheesy, a lot of it's like me. It's my own values. It's my It's the honesty. People buy from people, and that's 100% true. Whether you're in sales or procurement or whatever role you do, it's really funny you asked that question actually, because I was having this conversation with my son the other day. One of the things that's free in this world is your word. If you're going to give your word to somebody, or you're going to tell somebody that you're going to do something, then just do it. And if you can't do it and you can't deliver it, then don't tell them that you will. And I think the secret to my success is that I've always strived to be a man of my word, and that if I'm gonna deliver on something, if I'm gonna tell you that I'm gonna do something, that I will do it. And actually, what ended up happening as I was building those relationships was people saw me as someone that they could rely on, someone that they could phone up or they could send an email to. And actually, if I told them that it would get done, it would get done. And actually, if I couldn't get it done, they know it's not from the want of trying. And I would always have an explanation or as a reason as to why, but I always then like to come up with other solutions as well. So I can't get this done, but how about we do X, Y, and Z? And that's all obviously part of like negotiation and building relationships. The big secret to that success has been around my ability to be able to build relationships with people, and stand on my word, and that people can trust that. Depending on the industry that you work in procurement, you could be buying thousands/millions/billions of products, right? Whilst don't get me wrong, that obviously that a lot of the time with suppliers you have contracts in place, but actually one of the things that I pride myself on is that whilst I have contracts in place with various car manufacturers and various third-party suppliers, I've never actually had to invoke a contract, because if you get to the point of having to invoke a contract, it means that your communication and the trust is completely gone.
Yeah.
And I would never allow myself to get to that stage, because the whole reason we got into business in the first place is because we built a foundation of trust and communication. It's how I've built the procurement function here at Octopus, and also how I build my own brand as Alvin.
You made a lot of connections along the way. What's one quality that you've seen that differentiates the great partners from the good partners?
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you need to spill all your business's secrets or really tell everyone the ins and outs. But I think the more open and transparent you can be with a partner, the more insight they can give you into their business and also into their way of thinking, right? Because a lot of the time, when it comes down to decision making, sometimes the answer is just either a yes or a no. What separates a good partner from a great partner is whether it's a yes or a no, but understanding how they got to that yes and that no. Like, how transparent can you be with each other? What that then does is it helps form future conversations, and it helps form future negotiations. That if it's a no this time, like, why was it a no? Like, let me find out how to improve, or actually, is there something that we missed that someone else did that was better than us? Like, how can we be that better partner so next time it will be a yes? And then more importantly, if it is a yes, why was it a yes, and how do I continue to make sure that it remains a yes? Because I think a lot of people, once they've won business, complacency kicks in, right? And you just think, well, I won it the first time, so naturally I'm just going to win it again. Whereas that's not the case, because there are new products, there are new businesses, there are new people, and new relationships that are being formed and being built. The thing that separates a good partner from a great partner is the ability to be able to maintain those relationships through the good and the bad, understanding that you're both on the same journey together.
From what I'm hearing, it's responsiveness, communication, and being consistent with it.
100%. Sometimes people will get a win. They just automatically assume that once they've had the first win, they will continue to win. Whereas actually, not just in procurement, but I guess in life, you will always continue to strive and want to do better, because there's always going to be someone that's looking at what you're doing and is going to try and do it better. So if you don't want to continuously improve yourself, how can you expect people to just carry on like working with you in that way when you're still working the same way you did 3 years ago?
Speaking at Move 2025, you're going to be a speaker at Move 2025 next year. Why do you think next year's discussions are particularly critical for the industry?
There's a lot going on in the EV space. Obviously, this year was the first year of the new ZEV mandate, and obviously the ZEV mandate for next year gets even bigger as in the automotive space as manufacturers start moving more and more heavily towards electrification of their product. I think in particular right now we're at a super critical time, both from the electrification and obviously and getting more EVs on the road, but also around charging and infrastructure and how we as a country are going to help support the car manufacturers to be able to be confident about migrating their cars to EVs, and also give that consumer confidence as well. It's going to be a challenge. It's not going to be an easy 12, 24, 36 months. But it is definitely going to be exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Launching ourselves into an innovative era. Procurement, supply chain, any function you look at, really. But when we look at procurement in particular, we're still hearing this label of transactional functions. What does a transactional procurement team look like to you?
Procurement in itself we've pretty much lived off Excel and Google Sheets for a very long time. I think a lot of the day-to-day is spent so focused on just getting the stuff done. There's not a lot of space for the strategic bucket. Actually, the strategic bucket it's almost an afterthought, because you're so busy and actually just delivering what you need to deliver based on your current business needs. Whereas I think being able to reduce that transactional and like in the moment like day-to-day tasks, which are, don't get me wrong, are still very important, but don't necessarily require people to do. That for me is the goal here, is being able to utilize the people that you have to really help drive forward change and strategy, and being a little bit less stuck in the day-to-day.
What would you look for in a vendor that would resonate with you?
I think one of the things, this actually just isn't with vendor for AI or just in general for anyone that we work with, is the ability to grow. Well, as I mentioned earlier, there is a thing about winning a contract or winning something and then just leaving it there and then not actually wanting to progress. But what we found is that with any partners or suppliers that we take on and that we decide to work with, it's on the basis that actually there is, yes, right now you solve a need for X, Y, or Z, but actually what you're going to help us do is solve needs that we don't even know exist yet. But you want to work with us to help do that. And the level of integration, and again, open and transparency relationship that you can have to be able to grow together in that space. I think what makes it quite difficult sometimes is when you take something on board and it helps fix that problem right then. But as we scale and as you grow as a business, no doubt your needs are going to change. The way that you work is going to change. The systems that you use are going to change. Is that program or is that piece of tech, is it still applicable? The answer that we always want to have is yes. And it's not because it's the same bit of tech that we purchased or partnered with you on 3 years ago. It's the ability to have those constant iterations, to work together, to continue to develop, to make your proposition better, but to also ultimately help enhance ours as well.
It's the ability to grow together, because, we didn't see this coming in the last 10 years. What's going to happen in the next 20?
And innovation doesn't stop, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be innovation. The whole point of innovating and having that and having those same goals of how you innovate together, that's what's really important here, because that's how you will continue to drive change and continue to make a difference in whatever sector that you work in.
What excites you most about the future of procurement?
Oh, there's a few things. So in my own particular industry, obviously it's the amount of new product. I guess taking me back to like just my love of cars, there's that angle. But from the more general sense in terms of what's exciting about procurement, I think procurement is now becoming the industry that's being focused on with regards to how you improve efficiencies. I think lots of the program that companies build is normally based around like either a customer CRM system, or how do I help develop your sales pipeline, or how do you manage your sales like workflow, like how do you manage like from an inquiry to delivered, how do you look at in life, and don't get me wrong, all of that's really important, and obviously people will continue to iterate in that space. I kind of feel like procurement's not had their time to shine yet. And actually, to be honest, it's also one of the reasons why I was really honoured and privileged to be part of the 2024 like Changemaker class with Kavita, and actually some of the stuff that you've been doing as a business. I've really enjoyed all of that, because actually, I think the thing that excites me more about procurement as we move into next year and the following years is that procurement is now actually becoming a thing. Like we are highlighting that procurement is a role, and it's a desirable role to go into in a business.
Less people are falling into procurement. More people know about procurement and are actively choosing. Yeah.
And I think that's for me, that's what's exciting. Although I fell into it, your statement's exactly true. What sessions like this, and then actually like these spotlights here, what they're doing is really showcasing what procurement is. You're 100% right. I think the thing that I'm most excited about is that actually for the first time, procurement's really starting to come to the forefront from both a tech and people perspective, and that's such a great place to be.
Let's talk goals. So if I have this right, 78 EVs across 29 different brands in 2023, 137 EVs across 41 brands under your belt for 2024. Firstly, congratulations, because I know you set yourself a 100 mark, but what's the goal looking like for next year?
Those numbers that you mentioned there all form part of like one of the biggest event days that Octopus have every year, both for for our internal staff and also for external customers, where I try and get all of the EVs in the market for you to be able to come and see and drive in one place. The thing that I was most proud of this year was that that 137 EVs across 41 brands, that was the biggest selection of EVs and brands in one place at one time by any one company. So nobody else in the UK had been able to do that. And so in terms of goals for next year, bring every single brand that's here or coming to the UK and have their product and showcase it to both our staff and our customers, and be one of the first to do that. That's what I strive for every year when we pull these few days together.
On a more personal note, your work demands a lot of traveling. How do you balance it?
It's definitely been tough. I think again, one of the key ways of being able to manage it, very much in the way that I manage. And my wife's going to hate the fact that I'm about to refer to her as a supplier. But in much the way that obviously you work with any partners, it's about communication. But a lot of that came from just communicating with each other. Lots of my peers are always quite surprised when they say, "Oh well, Alvin, how are you? Like, how are you out and about? How does your wife allow all of this?" And actually, I've got a very supporting family behind me. I owe a lot of my success to them. My children have been my biggest inspiration, and actually to be as successful as I have been, and to reach the levels that I've reached, and some of the accolades that I've got at the age that I am, it's something that I've really strived for, because I want my children to know that actually this is what hard work looks like. Business is also really super supportive. I think, to be honest, that's how you get there. It's being able to communicate. Again, like, I think communication is the key. That unlocks so many doors, and if you can communicate in a real transparent and honest way, then most people tend to receive that openly.
And a quick question, where are you and Constantine headed next?
Oh, you're gonna have to wait and see. You have to keep your eye on LinkedIn and find out where we pop up again.
That's a wrap for our chat with Alvin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Bye bye.